Okay, so in this video, I want to discuss carbs and how you can wiggle carbs into your diet. In fact, in my diet plans, I mentioned that you have to have a minimum amount of carbs every single day. And I'm going to kind of just describe how you can use some combinations of carbs to make that happen. Like, you have to eat X amount of carbs every single day, and you want to hit that target the best you can. It's okay if you go a little bit over, but at least if you're hitting that target the best you can, you should be doing okay. So I know a lot of people think that cutting carbs is the way to lose weight. And I will say that doing a keto diet is a tool that you can use eventually, but it's not something I would suggest until you are already thin enough to see your abs and you want to burn off the last 5 remaining stubborn pounds of fat off your waistline. Then you can do keto for 2 weeks and do a lot of cardio, burn off that fat, and then just make sure you don't get reckless with your diet afterwards and you put back that fat back on. But doing a keto diet isn't meant to be forever, but you can use it as a tool. But if you're trying to lose weight, like, for instance, when I was losing 60 pounds, I didn't do keto at all. You might as well eat the carbs to have the energy to go to the gym, and not to mention you're going to be in a good mood because you're eating carbs. So carbs are vital and they are necessary, but it's only when you go way above your allowance every day where it gets detrimental, like where it actually affects you negatively. So you might recall in my diet plan, I mentioned to always aim for your ideal weight and eat for your ideal weight. So for instance, the ratio I describe it as whatever you want to weigh, you get 1 gram of protein for that weight. So I want to weigh 150, I get 150 grams of protein every single day. And so if you want to be 120, you get 120 grams of protein, or if it's 180, you get 180 grams of protein every day. So when it comes to carbs though, you divide your ideal weight in half. So 150 pounds, divide that by 2, that's 75. So my carb allowance every day is 75 grams of carbs, and that goes for whatever weight you want to be. If you want to be 120, you divide that by 2, and you take 60 grams of carbs every day. If you want to be 180 pounds, you would take in 90 carbs every day. So there is a carb allowance in your diet, and it's going to be great for you because it's going to give you energy, it's going to make you feel good, and it's just a good, wholesome food that just makes you feel good all in general. So the way I like to eat my carbs throughout my day is that if I'm having 5 meals throughout my day, typically my first, second, and maybe even third meal will have carbs in it. And then my last 2 meals of the day will be almost no carb or low carb as possible. So I like to have all my carbs in the middle of the day and then have less carbs if possible after 4 p.m. So that's an ideal day for me. And so with the diet plan of sticking to like 75 grams of carbs every day, which is mine, which is 100, if you want to weigh 150, 75 carbs is the goal, right? So I'm going to use that as the example, but whatever weight you want to weigh, you would just calculate for your own recommendations. So, but just getting back to the 75 grams of carbs every day as your target. So I just want to kind of go over some food items and how you can actually wiggle in pizza or chocolate. I like peanut butter and jelly toast. There's rice, obviously, and then I have some other extras that can't fit into the camera screen right now. So I just want to kind of go over some things and how you can work your meal plan into your carbs. And so again, having carbs is a good thing. It's just when you go and have too many, that's when things go wrong. And if you have less, if you don't have enough carbs, you're not gonna have energy. So it's gonna put you in a bad mood as well. So you wanna stay online and stay on the target the best you can. Stay walking that fine line. You don't wanna have too less, you don't wanna have too many. You wanna be right in line with where you should be. And so let's just begin. So what I like to eat every single day, and this is just what I like to do, and you're more than welcome to do whatever you want to. But I personally love to eat my peanut butter and jelly on toast. And if I have an English muffin, that's even better. But English muffins are just so expensive. They're like $6 for 6, where you can get a whole thing of bread, you get 17 pieces for like $5. So it's just a better buy to go with some bread. So, I mean, English muffins are great. I get those when I'm in the mood for them, when I feel like spending that cash. But for the most part, every day, I just get toast, or I will have a tortilla with my egg whites and make an egg white burrito or something like that. But generally speaking, just getting to the carb conversation again. So this Killer Days bread has a lot of carbs in it. So this is not your usual bread. It's not your cheap bread like Sara Lee or whatever. Like this bread right here in particular has 22 carbs in it. So a regular piece of bread usually has around 11 carbs in it. So this one has twice as many carbs as regular white bread or Nature's Own, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But this one also has 5 grams of protein and just 1.5 grams of fat. So this is a really good hearty bread. It's really tasty, which is why I get it. But just giving you the heads up that this has 22 grams of carbs in it. But when I combine it with my jelly and my peanut butter, and I weigh all of this stuff out, and it's all my meal plans too, where I have 20 grams of peanut butter, and then I have 25 grams of jelly, and I weigh everything out on a food scale. Like I will literally put my toast on the food scale, weigh out the peanut butter, weigh out the jelly. But when I weigh everything out, at the end of the day, that sandwich, that peanut butter and jelly toast, is 39 carbs altogether. So I mean, that's my breakfast. So if we're trying to aim for 75 carbs all day long, you know, a really easy way to go about it would be like divide your first 3 meals and have 25 carbs in your first meal, 25 carbs in your lunch, and 25 carbs in your meal at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's more than fine, but that's like kind of like a good average and way to split things up. But our first meal a day for me has 39 carbs in it. It's basically 40 carbs. So it's a little bit more than the average meal, but I just can't get away with not eating my peanut butter and jelly. I just love it too much. And it's just always my go-to food that I just eat every day. And I'm more than willing to spend an extra 14 to 15 more carbs in my first meal just to get those food flavors in. Because I love my peanut butter and jelly on toast with my organic coffee that I also get from Costco. So that's just my go-to breakfast carb. My breakfast meal has this as my carb source. It's 39 carbs, or we can just say 40 for short. And so the next thing is usually my next meal, my lunch will usually have rice. And so I'll always have some rice pre-cooked. So that way, when I go to make my lunch, my rice is sitting there all ready to go. And I just keep my measuring cup in there just because I know I'm going to need it. And so this is the reason why you must always weigh out your food. So 100 grams of cooked rice is about 28 carbs. So like this is why you have to weigh out food. And this is why if you're not careful and you just try to eyeball your stuff out, like this is what's going to happen. You take 1 cup of rice, and then when you say if you're just eyeballing it and this is what you're going to do, but this is what it really is. So I mean, this is why you always want to weigh your food out. So it's 178 grams. So I mean, for whatever reason, maybe there's too much water, or what this rice was just for whatever reason, there we go. 1 cup of rice was too much in weight. So that's what 100 grams of rice looks like. 1 serving of rice is that. And so that's about 28 carbs. So that's why we have to always eyeball your food. I mean, you always have to weigh out your food. You can't eyeball it because like you can't just count on your measuring cup to be accurate. And so when you want to stay on course, you have to always use your food scale. And this is exactly why you must stick to the food scale. Otherwise, you know, you're going to eat too much or you're not going to get enough. So regardless, if you use a food scale, you're always going to be accurate with your eating. And then if you're not losing weight fast enough, then maybe you have to cut out more calories. Or if you're losing if you're losing weight too fast, maybe you should add in some more calories so it's not so drastic. But if you're weighing your food out, you know what you're doing at all times. And then, you know, after a week, you go back and look over like your progress, and then you think to yourself, what could you have done better, or is everything great? And then if it's great, you stick to it. And if there's something you might want to change, just go ahead and just adjust from there. But this is a prime example as to why you always weigh your food out, because if you eyeball it every single day, you're always going to be off the mark. So keeping yourself on the food scale keeps you on the right path at all times. So I just want to kind of bring that into the picture to let y'all like just see how important it is to use your food scale at all times. And also going back to my peanut butter and jelly, you know, back in the day before a food scale, I love peanut butter so much. Like I'm going to put blobs and blobs and blobs of peanut butter on the toast, and it's going to turn into more peanut butter than actual bread. But I mean, even though 20 grams of peanut butter is still quite a bit on a slice of bread, but back in the day before a food scale, I would put literally 5 or even 8, 10 times more peanut butter, just globs and globs of peanut butter, because it's such a healthy food. But you know, but in truth, it's very high in calories. Just 2 tablespoons is 180 calories, so that's a lot. So this is a food item that you have to be careful with. So just 2 tablespoons, 32 grams is 180 calories. But for my breakfast, I only put 20 grams. So I only put a third of what this recommendation is for a serving size. And so, but yeah, I weigh all this stuff out, and I also have all the calories, everything calculated, so we don't have to keep going over all those little things just now. So, because y'all can look over the food label as you wish. But 15 grams of fat, lots of fat. There's 7 carbs in this, so there are carbs in this, and there's also protein. But looking at it, there's a lot of fat, and then there's some decent amount of carbs and some good amount of protein. But just saying, this is a calorie dense food that you have to weigh out, and this will sneak up on you if it gets too carried away. So okay, the last thing I'll talk about as far as like health food goes, like in my usual lunch or even early evening, you can even do this for breakfast, but your non-fat Greek yogurt, even though it has no fat and high protein, there's also going to be some carbs in it. So there's like 7 carbs in there. So I just want to kind of point out, you know, some of the food items that have carbs in it. I mean, the higher, you know, the ones to look out for the most are obviously your bread and your rice, which have a lot of carbs in it. But all of these items, even your jelly, has a little bit amount of carbs, but they will add up, you know, eventually. So my toast is 22 carbs, but then my peanut butter and jelly altogether is 39 carbs. So we're talking 17 more carbs between these 2 items plus this. So they do all add up eventually. So those are what I eat regularly as my main carb sources: the bread, the rice, yogurt, peanut butter, and jelly. And so I'm going to talk about secondary things as far as carb sources go, because I also love chocolate, and I will never tell you not to have chocolate, and I will never tell you not to eat your favorite food. So for instance, if potato chips are your thing, I'm not going to tell you not to have potato chips, but I will show you how to work these things into your diet. So if you just look at the back of a chocolate bar, for instance, the Vino Cocoa bars here are one of my bars that I love to eat. It's made with organic chocolate, and they're wine flavored, so it's pretty fancy and it's high quality ingredients. But half a chocolate bar is 11 carbs. I mean, there's also 12 grams of fat, and there's also 2 grams of protein. But once you know how to budget this into your food plan, you can eat chocolate, you know, as you wish. Same thing with over here. I'll just show you this. I had some brownies. I saved the cartridge just for this video, but there's 6 brownies in this whole thing right here. And we got the serving size. It says 1 brownie is going to be 34 carbs. So if I wanted to, for instance, have my peanut butter and jelly for my breakfast, I said that's 39 carbs earlier, so we'll just say 40 just to make life easier. If we had 40 carbs with our breakfast and I wanted to have a brownie, which is 34 carbs, I could literally have my toast for breakfast, and then with my lunch, if I'm having like chicken and rice, or I'm sorry, not the rice. If we had chicken, vegetables, we could have a brownie instead of the rice, for instance. So I mean, as long as you calculate everything into your diet plan with your numbers, you can have just whatever you want. Here's another thing I'll show you. Everyone loves pizza. This pizza right here I get from Costco. It's a gluten-free, thin crust. I love thin crust pizza. It's what I like to eat. It's compared to like the thick stuff that's too doughy. But this stuff right here, if we look at the nutrition facts, it says right here, 1/4 of a pizza is 36 carbs. So there's also 14 grams of fat we gotta look out for and 12 grams of protein. So all that stuff will get added in, but I'm just saying, like, when it comes to eating carbs, like 1/4 of pizza is 36 carbs. So if you wanted to eat half this pizza, if you wanted to have half a pizza, that's gonna be 72 carbs. So if you wanted to have your breakfast, say with like a carbless breakfast, you have your egg whites with, say, like maybe some avocado slices or even egg whites and a side of spinach. That's a no carb breakfast. And then you want to have half a pizza for your lunch. I mean, you can literally have like a quarter of pizza with your lunch and then another quarter of pizza with your third meal of the day, or just eat the entire half pizza for your lunch. Just be careful with your carbs later on in the day. So you could literally have half a pizza, have 72 carbs, and still lose weight. And as long as you're keeping track, you're going to do fine. So you just gotta be responsible with what you're doing. So you couldn't have like your toast with peanut butter and jelly and then have half the pizza and then, you know, another serving of rice. You gotta make sure you're just hitting your numbers however it happens. So I mean, half a pizza is 72 carbs for this brand, and then you still have like 3 carbs left and you're not even going over your carb allowance. So I mean, you can literally have half a pizza and still lose weight as long as you're careful with what you're doing. And so some other things I kind of want to show you really fast when it comes to spaghetti. So we got some store brand spaghetti here. Same thing with like one serving size, and you got to weigh this out too, but 56 grams as a serving, that will add up. I mean, 56 grams of pasta is like roughly the size of this plate of rice here. But we got right here 42 carbs. So I mean, you could have a serving of spaghetti and have that be 42 carbs, and then you could have literally a serving of spaghetti and a quarter slice of pizza and still lose weight. But again, like when it comes to spaghetti, it'll catch up on you, because a lot of people would get a whole plate of spaghetti and fill it up with pasta and let that be that. But what they don't know is like a serving of pasta is like this amount of rice. So just a little bit more, like 42 grams. And this is like, what was it? A few grams like that. But I'm just saying, like a serving of pasta is this size of a plate. So if you're going to get a big plate, you're having 3 servings of pasta, and you're literally having 120 carbs in just that one meal. So that's why spaghetti night can catch up on you. Real quick tip, if you're going to have a spaghetti night, what you can do instead of having spaghetti is have chicken parmesan with your cheese on top. And so that would be like 30 to 40 grams of protein. Then you have a side of pasta on the side, so you still stick to like your carb allowance. So you can have chicken parmesan, side of pasta, and then like even a salad, and that's like a well-balanced Italian meal. So you still get to have your pasta, but you also get your chicken parmesan. So you still get a full experience of like dining out or whatever it might be. So you gotta be smart about what you're doing. So a whole plate of spaghetti will get you fat, but a plate of chicken parmesan with a small side of pasta will help you get skinny and get toned and build muscle. So just looking out for that. So the last thing I want to talk to you about, maybe some junk food. We got some Oreos here. So if you really want to get into the Oreos, if this is like your weakness, and like I don't have any potato chips on hand, otherwise I would talk about that. But you know, 3 cookies, you got 25 carbs. So I mean, if you're able to skip the rice at lunch, you could have 3 Oreos. Or if you can skip the quarter pizza, you could have 3 Oreos. So I'm just saying, like, as long as you're paying attention to what you're eating, you could wiggle this into your diet plan. So you could have 3 Oreos. You could literally have 9 Oreos all day long as your carb source and lose weight, as long as you don't eat anything else. So you gotta pick your battles and choose what you want, and just, you know, kind of ask yourself, what do you really want today? Like, you know, like for instance, I always have to have peanut butter and jelly. That's always my go-to. And then like every blue moon, I want a pizza. So I'll go get a pizza, and then I'll have like half the pizza and have that be my serving of carbs for the day. And then I'll have another half a pizza left over for the next day, so I can eat pizza 2 days in a row and still lose weight. So it's just all about calculating all your carbs. And then the thing about it is like, once you get good at, you know, counting your carbs and calories, etc., you don't really have to keep looking everything up all the time, because it's just going to be in your brain. Like I know that 1 slice of bread is 22 carbs. I know that 1 serving of yogurt has 7 carbs in it. So it's like, it's already in my mind of like what's what. So I don't have to just get off the couch and then go count my calories every time I go make a meal plan. So once you get used to your food items and you kind of have an eye and have an idea of what everything is and their protein, carbs, and fats, you don't necessarily always have to just keep opening the refrigerator to look at a nutrition label. I mean, but I have notes on everything in here, so you can just seriously just take screenshots of the notes of the food items with the proteins, carbs, and fats just to keep it easy for you. And of course, I have my meal plans, which have all the foods weighed out for you too. So I try to make everything as easy as possible. But I just want to make this video, kind of explain the importance of carbs and how you can work carbs into your diet. So that way you're not missing out on life. So if you love potato chips, for instance, I don't have potato chips, but like a small fun bag size of Doritos is like 25 carbs, just to give you the idea of like how many carbs are in potato chips. It's not that many. It's literally, you have 13 chips and that's your carb allowance for the day. So I mean, you can have what you want, you just can't have all of it. And so, but like for instance, I love potato chips, but I will never buy a bag because I cannot stop eating them. So I just never ever buy them. So I just know that's just what's going to happen. So I've done it before, and I just stay away from chips altogether. But anyways, if that's your thing, just get smart with it and calculate all your carbs, and you can still get away with eating whatever you want to. Same thing with soda. I'm not a soda drinker, and I definitely don't advise it. It's probably one of the worst things you could do because it's all pure sugar. But I believe like a mini can of Coke and a mini can of like Sprite is around 25 to 30 carbs. So I mean, if that was going to be your carb source, you would have to eliminate the rice or your pizza and whatever else. You have to just ask yourself, what do you really want? And then just have that and just stick to the plan. As long as you're measuring it out and you're aware of what you're eating, you're going to be okay. So, and then just getting down to it, one last note, it's like, as long as you're 90% perfect with your diet, you're going to be doing great. I know I talk a lot about like being specific with everything, and like granted, be specific as much as possible, be on your target as much as possible with your food scale, etc. Because there might be a time when you're out and about, and then you go have some keto tacos at a restaurant or something like that, or you go somewhere else to eat. And so that'll be like your one slip up, But I'm saying like when you're at home, like you have to be like 100% perfect at all times, because you're not always going to have your food scale on hand. So if you do leave the house and you go out with some friends or family, then you end up going somewhere, like then you could just kind of calculate, in your mind what you can have, what would be best for you. And just that's when you can kind of eyeball stuff, and then you can kind of get away with some things. But when you're at home, you want to be on course at all times with your food scales and just weighing everything out. So that way you can be perfect at least 90% of the time. So, and that's what we're going for. So extreme perfection all the time. Don't get too neurotic about it, but I'm just saying like be 90% perfect or even better than that, and you're going to do great. So, but I just wanted to make this video just to show you how you can actually eat carbs and lose weight. And then once you get really good at the whole carb thing, and if you get on a good routine of like you're regularly eating your meals, and it's getting easier and easier and easier for you just to stay on course. And if you're going to the gym and you're really hitting everything hardcore, and you're going to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, you're active. There is one more thing I'll describe in another video, and that is you can actually start eating more carbs with something called carb cycling, which means you can have a low carb day, then it's a 3-day cycle. So the first day is a low carb day, the next day is a medium carb day, and then the next day is a high carb day. And then you kind of go back to the beginning and just make a carb cycle. And I explained that in detail in another video because it's more of an advanced thing once you get into your routine of eating all the time. But you are able to eat more carbs if you're more active. But if you're not active, if you have a desk job and you're only hitting the gym for an hour a day, like stick to just the basics. And then you can still have a high carb day every now and then. But until you get onto a routine, I would have the carb cycling off to the side. But for the meantime, though, if you're just sticking to your basic diet routinely, that's super great. And then you can still have the occasion high carb day just randomly as you wish. But, just be careful with everything you do, of course. So, but the more active you are, the more allowance you can have when it comes to like breaking the diet or eating a little bit more or trying to get away with a little more calories. But if you're just beginning, it's necessary just to get in a good routine of eating the same stuff every day, and then just getting really good at getting on a daily routine to where it's like almost second nature and you don't really think much about it. So anyhow, I just want to go over how important carbs are. Yes, you can have carbs as long as you're smart about it and you're hitting your numbers. If you don't have enough carbs, you're not going to have enough energy. If you have too many carbs, you're going to store it as fat. So as long as you're hitting right on target, you should be, as long as you're right in the middle where you should be, you're going to be on progress to losing weight, even while still eating carbs and eating all of your favorite foods. All right, so in the next videos, I'm going to talk about oils and flavors, butters, and other spices and things like that to make your food great. So I'll see you in the next video.